Welcome, everyone, to Luke Live Online. Tuesday nights, Luke Live Online, in the year that God has given us, 2021, and this is session number 30. And I'm Father James DeLucio, offering you a journey through the Gospel of Luke. Tonight's pericope is Luke chapter 7, verses 11 through 17. Picking up right where we left off after that powerful episode of Jesus healing the slave of the centurion. Here we go. Soon afterward, Jesus journeyed to a city called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd accompanied him. As he drew near to the gate of the city, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother. And she was a widow. When the Lord saw her, he was filled with pity for her, and he said to her, "Do not weep." He stepped forward and touched the coffin. At this, the bearers halted. And he said, "Young man, I tell you, arise." The dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Then fear seized them all, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has arisen in our midst, and God has visited his people." The news about him spread through the whole of Judea and in all the surrounding region. The Gospel of the Lord. Powerful, powerful event in the life of the disciples in relation to Jesus. And we recognize here, as we have often already, that he is the Lord of life and death, the true Son of the living God. We also get a sense of Luke's ingenuity and his art, his literary art, because here he's very careful to have us recognize him as Lord. He specifies, "The Lord said to her." And in that, the people hearing it right away would have understood that this is the same one who has already been resurrected from the dead, because they're hearing this story, in a sense, not for the first time, but they know already. They have the gift of hindsight. And how do we know they're not hearing it for the first time? Well, as I've mentioned several times in our journey, that these Gospels are written long after the stories of Jesus have already, for a generation or more, been handed on to others. So they're a literary work that takes what the people already knew and fashioned it in such a way to impress upon them the power of the gospel and the gift of faith. So here Luke is saying, you know this, but this is the Lord now. This is the Lord of life and death. This is the resurrected Lord, although obviously at the actual history of the moment, to the people, he was just Jesus, or as they said, a great prophet has arisen in our midst. The people too, listening, would have smiled, because the prophet has arisen would confirm that they are hearing the story of the one who became the first fruits of the resurrection of the dead, for all of them to follow. So all this in just a small little episode of the power of Jesus, and one of beautiful tenderness of Jesus' compassion for the widow, and his desire to manifest that God has compassion, and also a real sense of what is to come for all of us, to be risen from the dead, not in this world although it could be happen for all those people who have died and come back, which is something that we hear lots of stories about, but also in terms of the future that is planned for all. So I thank you so much for joining me for tonight's pericope, and if you wish, spend some time going back to Luke chapter 7. This is verses 11 through 17. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me. Good night, everyone.